The film look. What even is the film look, and why does everybody want it? I'm pretty sure that's what many of you are wondering, especially us filmmakers. Right now, most people want to get the film look, and I understand it looks so good. That warm, vintage, and grainy look. Like, who wouldn't want that? It's crazy how back then they wanted everything digital, clean, and crisp. And now that there are cameras that give you beautiful high definition footage, we still want to have that old classic film look. I'm not even sure most people my age have ever watched old movies that were shot on film. However, film is still being used today as there are many movies that are shot in film. Some of your favorite movies are shot with film cameras, but not the old film cameras, obviously. Now there are modern film cameras that are used to shoot movies. So the question is, how do we get the film look? Well, it's pretty easy actually. Go and get a film camera and shoot on film. Damn. Not only is it mad expensive, but the process that goes into film developing is just crazy. Like, just look at this. So, how else can we achieve this film look? And with a digital camera or even any camera? Is it even possible? Well, yes, thanks to a little something called film emulation. Well, film emulation is a technique used to give digital image the appearance of being captured with an analog photosensitive media. In other words, it's a way of giving the image from a digital camera the look and feel of a film camera. Now, there are probably other ways of doing this, but I'm quite sure I have the best way, and that is Dehancer. Dehancer is a film emulation plugin software, and I have to say it's one of the best things I've seen. I mean, it's crazy to know that this was taken with a digital camera, and it's not only for video but for photos too. And the plugin is available for DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut, Adobe After Effects, Premiere Pro, Photoshop, Lightroom, and Capture One. It's also available for mobile on iPhones and iPads. I mean, it's so great. Like, you have a lot of controls that makes your image or your video look good, and it's also easy to use. I don't even have that much experience in color grading. I'm not a colorist. A couple of times I'll just slap a lot on my footage and move on. But with the answer, I've been exposed to a whole new world of possibilities. So you have no excuse for not getting the film look anymore. I mean, sure, it's a bit pricey, but honestly, with what you're going to get, it's worth it. But you don't have to pay the full price anymore, because the answer was kind enough to give anyone who uses the promo code SALEM a whooping 10% discount. So now you really have no excuse. Make sure to check the link in the description to check it out, and trust me, you won't regret it. So now I'm going to show you guys how I use the enhancer to get the film look. Alright, so I'm inside Premiere Pro and I'm going to show you guys how the enhancer works and how you can use it. Of course, the enhancer is available for Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop, Lightroom, Capture One, and DaVinci Resolve. So basically, the plugin is available for any video editor that you have. It's also available on iPhones and iPad, and the answer also has a video editor app for iPhones and iPad, so make sure to check that out. So before we can use it, we have to create a sequence and put some videos in that sequence. So I'm just going to go over to the shorts folder. These are the shorts that I included in the introduction of the video. So now I'm just going to go through the part that I want to use and see which one works. Okay, so I'm going to drag this part to create a sequence. So now the footage is in the sequence. So before I apply the plugin to the shot, I'm going to toggle proxies. That's because the plugin is quite heavy and it's heavy on my system, so it's going to affect the playback on my system. So to have a smoother playback, I use proxies. So now that I have the shot in my timeline, I'm going to go over to the effects panel and go to video effects and film emulation, and the enhancer is there, or you can just search for the enhancer in the search bar and it's up there. So I'm going to drag the effects to my shot, and now I can see it in the first controls. So I'm just going to go through each of the options here and explain to you guys how it works. I've been using the enhancer myself for a while, and honestly I can say it's worth it. So this is how my shot looks once I added the enhancer to it. You can see the before and the after. It already gives you a look, but of course you can change everything about it. So for the first one, the input. Now the input is basically for your shot. Here we have the source, and from here you can choose camera profiles. So here we have profiles like Rec 709, Rec 2020 and the rest. If you have a specific camera profile, you can come down and choose camera, and then you can see all the camera profiles that the enhancer has to offer. So if you're shooting on a Canon, there are different Canon camera profiles like the Canon 670 C-Log, the Canon 670 C-Log 3, the Canon R C-Log, and there are a lot. So no matter the camera you're shooting on, the enhancer has a camera profile for you to use and ready on the go. If you're shooting on an iPhone like I do sometimes, it has camera profiles for an iPhone too. You can see the Apple log. This is the camera profile if you're filming on a Filmic Pro, which is a camera app for the iPhone. It has the profiles of the Filmic Pro. It has profiles of Arri Alexa. It also has camera profiles for the Red Gemini, Red Helium. So basically any camera you're shooting, it has. But my camera uses Rec 709, so I'm going to choose Rec 709 as my source. Now here you also have controls, and let me just expand that. So this is the temperature. Basically, like when you have temperature in your lumetri color, it's almost the same thing. So if I move it forward, you see that it goes to the warmer side. So moving it forward takes it warmer, it makes it look warmer, and obviously moving it backward makes it look cooler. So I'm going to have mine at 0 for now, and also the tint as well, basically the same thing as the lumetri color. Moving it to the right gives it this purplish look, and moving it to the left gives it a greener look. So basically the temperature and tint, if you're familiar with color grading, are two properties for white balancing your footage. So if your shot was not correctly white balanced, you can adjust them from here, or if you just want to make your shot look cooler or warmer, you can also adjust it from there. You also have the different values here. You have the different and the different radius, but obviously before you adjust any of that, you have to enable the fringe. But I personally don't use the fringe, so you can go ahead and play with that yourself. Let's go over to the film. So here is actually where you pick the film profiles that you want. So if you're familiar with film cameras and you like the way a particular film camera looks, you can choose the profile of that film camera from here. And obviously there are a lot, and when you install the plugin, it installs all this profile with it. So if I enable it now, you can see that I can choose which film profile I want. So I'm going to go with the Kodak Gold 200 right here. So there's also a push or pull option here, which I can increase, and you see the difference it makes to my footage, and the highest is 2. You can also go over to -2. I'm going to leave mine at 0. So when you've selected your film, you can come down, and here is the next option, the film developer. So here you have options like contrast boost, gamma correction, color separation, and color boost. Now most of these options obviously are self-explanatory. You have the contrast boost, which boosts the contrast in your shot. You have the gamma correction, you have the color separation, which separates the color, and the color boost, which boosts up the colors in your footage. Obviously, to use any of this, you have to enable it. So before you adjust, make sure you enable each of them. So now if I want to play with my contrast boost, you see the difference it makes when I increase it. Obviously it increased the contrast a lot. So I'm just going to tweak these settings to my likings. So these are the settings I'm going with to give my shots the look that I want. So after the film developer is the film compression. Here you have controls like impact, white points, total range, and color density. So before we change any of those settings, I'm going to enable it. So the impact basically is how strong you want these settings to be in your shot. So when I tweak these three settings, the white point, tonal range and color density, personally to me when I use it, there is not much of a difference, but the impact value is actually how strong you want these settings to be in your footage. So you can see how it is on 0 and you can see how it is on 100. So over to the next one, the expand. So the expand basically is to increase or decrease your black point and white points. Like you have in your geometric color over here under light, you can increase your whites and decrease your blacks. This is basically the same thing. So you can decide to play with that. You can see how it affects my clip, but I normally don't touch these settings. So that's for the expand. So we go to the next one, the print. So the print again, it has to do with the color. It has to do with tweaking the colors of your footage. So we'll start from the first one, the profile. You have the linear, Cineon, film log, Fujifilm. These are basically film cameras. So you can choose profiles of different film cameras here, and you can play with the settings here. The target white is like the white control that we saw earlier, and then the exposure. Obviously you should know what exposure is, how bright or dark your footage is. So we can decide to increase the exposure here or reduce the exposure. We have the tonal contrast again, so which is basically the contrast. You can increase or decrease it. Mine is totally fine, so I'm going to reset it. And then the color density, and then your saturation. You can decide to increase or decrease. I'm going to leave mine as 100. So for the next one is the color head. So the color head is purely about the colors in your footage. You can increase the yellow to blue range, you can increase the magenta to green, you can increase or reduce the cyan to red. So it basically how you want your color grading to be. So this part basically is for your color grading, not color correction, color grading. So if you want more yellow to blue, if you want more magenta to green or less, or you want more or less cyan to red, this is where you go. So I'm going to reset these values because I don't normally use it. So under here you have the shadow tone, mid-tone tone, highlight tone, preserve exposure and impact. Obviously you can play with this to see how it affects your footage. So for me, I'm going to increase my shadows a little bit, and I'm going to play with the mid-tones and the highlights. So that's it for the color head. And for the next one, the film grain. Now if you're seeing footage from a film camera, you know that there's always film grain. So you can select the profile of different settings for your film grain, and each of them obviously has different looks. So you can choose to see which one works for you. This is the 8mm ISO 50, and each of them have different looks. So you can go through all of them and check which one works the best for the look you're trying to achieve. I'm going to go with 35mm ISO 50. There's also a custom option here, so you can decide to get any kind of grain you want for yourself by just tweaking these few settings. But for this shot, I'm going to go with the 35mm ISO 50. So after the film grain, we now have the halation. Now halation is very important for the film look. Again, you have a profile that you can select: 8mm Super 8, 16mm Super 16 and the rest of them. So to show you how it works, I'm going to select anyone. I'm going to select the 8mm Super 8, and to really see the halation working, obviously you first enable it, and to see just the halation, you enable the max mode. So now that the max mode is enabled, you can see the parts where the halation is showing. Now on the laptop that's in the shot, you can see the halation on the edge around here, and you can see around here and here. These parts are where the halation is. So if I select another profile here, you can see how they all look different. Now you can see this one, it's actually a lot, it looks a lot. So if I disable the max mode, you can see how the halation blends with the normal shot. So I decided to go with the 16mm Super 16 no regiment, and you can see how it improves the look of the footage, and it's really giving that film look. So after the halation is the bloom. So for the bloom, it's basically the same thing as the halation. You choose the profiles you want. So here we have less profiles, but obviously you can use the custom and create one you want for yourself. I'm going to enable it and enable max mode. So this is the bloom. If I choose another one, you can see how it looks different. And also I want to point out that it will probably look different depending on the kind of shot you have. So if you have another kind of shot, like if you have a shot outside or you have a shot in another location, it's going to be different. Each of the profiles is going to be different, so it also matters on the kind of shot you have. So I'm going to go with the 16/super 16 profile. You won't really see it until when you disable the enhancer effect. So you can see the difference. Look over here in this curtain, you can see the difference when the bloom is enabled. So after the bloom is the film damage. So let's go ahead and enable it. Here there is no max mode, you just choose the profile you want, or you can create a custom one. If you look at film footage where it's displayed like on a projector, you see these little dirt flying around. It's not actually dirt, it's called film damage. So again, it's basically on what you want. You can decide to enable it, you can decide to disable it, but for this one I'm going to disable it. So just going to uncheck enabled here, but it will really give you that old film look. So if you want it, it's completely your choice, you can decide to enable it. So now let's go over to film breadth. So it's the same thing, you choose your profile or you can create a custom. So let's enable it and see what it looks like. So film breadth is basically an accidental change in the exposure, the contrast, or the color of your video. So when it's enabled and you select the profile you want, as it moves frame to frame, you see how it changes. It kind of flickers, and as it's flickering, it's changing the exposure, the contrast, and the color. Also, there are custom settings that you can set. You can increase or decrease the period of those flickerings where it's going to change, and you can change the exposure, the contrast, the color, also the impact. So after that, we have the gate weave, and the gate weave is quite similar to the film breadth. It's a subtle horizontal or vertical shift, or it's like a jitter in the frame that is caused by the film not being perfectly stable when it moves through the camera or a projector. So it's similar to the film breadth, but it's kind of different. So hopefully you understand that, and of course you can choose your profiles again, or you can create a custom one and you can enable it. So next we have overscan. Okay, so the overscan, essentially when you look at it, is like a crop where it crops the footage to the aspect ratio of the film camera you're using. However, it's not really the case. According to the answer, scans are cropped using the exposed area, but sometimes information outside the film gate is intentionally included, and that technique is called overscan. So that's what overscan really is. So you can change the settings. Basically here there are a lot of options. You have the gate type. The gate type is these black borders that are here. You can see how it changes when I choose different options. This is the super 8mm. You have other options like the standard 16. So that's what the gate type does. So you can now choose the gate shape. You can choose it whether you want it to be normal, or you want it to be sharp, or you want it to be rounded, or you don't want it at all. It's all up to you. Then there is the perforation mode. Basically what I've seen this do is when it's negative, these spaces here are black, and when it's positive they turn white, but you can turn them off and that removes it completely. And you can also choose the orientation to be vertical or horizontal, which means these things will come up, these black bars will come up like this. So it's basically still up to you to choose these settings. You can also play around with the exposure, the scale, the zoom, the offset in the x-axis, the offset in the y-axis, and the defocus. You can decide to leave it enabled, or you can decide to disable it. I'm going to disable mine. Okay, and next we have the vignette. So if you're familiar with the lumetri color, the vignette is basically like a black border that is around your footage. So you will see what I mean when I enable it. So this is the vignette enabled. To really see what it's doing, I'm going to reduce the feather to 0. So this black edge, this circle, is the vignette. So I can decide to decrease the exposure around it or increase it. Normally vignettes are darker, so I'm going to go with the darker vignette. I'm going to reduce the exposure to around -0.5, and then you can play around with the size, and then obviously it has to be feathered, so I'm just going to increase the feather. Now this is the shot without the vignette, and this is the shot with the vignette. So after the vignettes we have the monitor. Here under the monitor you can decide to use false color. So if you don't have any experience with false color is basically having more controls over the exposure by using colors. So this bar here indicates the exposure levels for each color. You can see that the highest is red and there is no red color here, which means there is no part here that is overexposed. So all the colors here are 50 and under. So like the green here you can see here obviously, and the blues here you can see over here. So the shot seems to be somewhat underexposed, but when I disable it, this is how it looks. So that's what the monitor is for, to monitor your exposure levels. All the settings that you've added and you've changed, you can change the total impact from here. This is basically the intensity of the effect as a whole. So if I decrease it, you see less of it, and if I increase it, you see more of it. So I like to keep it 100 because I like having full control over the color and the look of the footage, as you can see here. Then the LUT generator, basically this saves your settings as a LUT so you can import it later and use it. So if you don't want to go through all the settings again, you can just export the LUT and then import it later on. So basically those are all the controls for the enhancer. You can see how it is without the enhancer film emulation plugin, and you can see how it is now. Honestly, it looks so much better. I would really recommend you get this for yourself and take your time to look at each of the effects and the controls to see how you can really use it to your advantage. The enhancer is a great plugin. Honestly, it's worth the money. So check the link in the description below to check it out and get 10% off the enhancer plugin for any of your softwares. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like below and hit the subscribe button if you like this video to see more videos and content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.